Hello, once again. I'm your host, Doc Rodden, and this is Horror News Radio, the official Gruesome Magazine podcast. Back with me again this week are the scariest, goriest, bloodiest co hosts on the net. And tonight we're reviewing everything, everywhere, all at once. Yes. All right. Starting off tonight, we have a special guest host, film committee member of the New York City Horror Film Fest, Brian W. Smith. How you doing, sir?
I'm good. I'm doing well. Thanks for having me. Always happy to be back and talk about horror films and genre films. And
Yeah,
this one's all of them.
yeah. This one it leans more toward the genre, but yeah. We're taking some liberties here, but it's all in good faith here.
Mhm.
Also joining us is award-winning filmmaker Christopher G. Moore. How you doing, sir?
I'm doing good. I'm the less successful alternate universe version of myself today, so
Nah,
doing
man.
well.
I feel that every day. Not that you, but me. Yeah, I feel
Yeah.
it. I feel it. I feel it in my bones. All right. So what we're going to do tonight is we're going to review this wonderful film. We're going to give our first impressions, and that will be spoiler free. And then we're going to dive into a discussion where we will get into spoilers. And oh my gosh, does this film have spoilers?
Yes, major.
It's going to be really hard to say something without trying to spoil it. And then we'll wrap things up with our final thoughts, our score, a 1 to 5, and our favorite scene. And of course, we hope you enjoy not only this review, but many others that we have on the site. And if you want to help us out, it's free and easy to do. Hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, share with a friend. And of course, we want to hear your comments down below. Let's look at the card, shall we? Boom. Everything, everywhere, all at once. 2022 A24 is available in theaters beginning March 25th, 2022. Of course, it was a limited release, and then it expanded the next week and expanded the next, and is doing really well for an A24 film. So, yay. Synopsis is an aging Chinese immigrant is swept up in an insane adventure where she alone can save the world by exploring other universes, connecting with the lives she could have led. Written, directed by Quan and Daniel Scheinert. My gosh, it's going to get worse. All right. The cast includes Michelle Yeoh, Stephanie Hsu, Ki Wan, James Hong, Jamie Lee Curtis, Jenny Slate, and Harry Shum Jr., among others. And this is going to be, this is going to be incredible.
Sorry, I was just tapping into my alternate universe.
Excellent. Let's dive into our first thoughts. Christopher, start us off.
This, I'll say that this movie is one of the most unique films I've seen in a very long time. It is, it's an extravaganza of sci-fi ideas and themes and movie genres. It's a love letter to a lot of those type of things, and I think, it's exuberant, it's weird, it's fun, it's action filled, it's heartfelt, and it's also batshit bonkers. And it's visually one of the more interesting films I've seen. It's the editing levels is like ADHD levels, but in a good way. Just how these two indie filmmakers who got a lot of their start in like music videos and stuff. The Turn Down for What music video is probably one of their most famous videos, but they've always had a really cool visual sense when it comes to telling stories, when it comes to music videos, and you could sort of see that in this. But they're also known for just like these wacky, crazy ideas that they infuse in a lot of their music videos. And this is taking all those crazy ideas and stuffing it into a everything bagel of movie stuff.
Everything bagel.
I can't say enough good things about this. I've gone down a rabbit hole of just watching stuff on the internet about the Daniels, the two filmmakers who did this. And a lot of the people that are affiliated to make it happen. I mean, they use a lot of their indie roots ideas to make things happen because, I mean, even though as an indie budget, 25 million is still a lot of money, but for a lot of the stuff they had to pull off in this movie, a lot of other movies like Marvel movies would spend, hundreds of $1 millions to pull it off. Their martial arts people are the Martial Club, which are these guys on the YouTube that had a love for kung fu movies, and they had did these little videos. So they took a chance with those guys to create some really unique things that are on the level of like Jackie Chan films. But also this film is, I think, Michelle Yeoh's best performance ever. She deserves an Oscar for her performance in this. Was it Kwan, who last time we probably seen him was when he was a little kid in Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom. He was also in Goonies as Data. He hasn't really had a main role in like 20 years. He is great in this. I want to see a short round movie with him returning.
Nice.
I want to see him in action films.
Mm-hmm.
There are not enough words in the English language for me to heap praise on this film. It blew my mind in the same way that people's minds are blown in the movie. It's and the level, it has heart. It has things are just the most goofy ass shit you'll ever see. You can see their love of different movie genres in this. It's jam packed with everything. It's a gumbo of so many different elements, but tastes delicious. This is everything. As a filmmaker, this extremely impressed me. I'm getting emotional just talking about it. It made me cry at the end. It had one of the funniest, most lewd things I've ever seen in a very long time that I still laugh about when I think about it. I laughed so long during one specific scene. I don't know. I can't say enough good things about it. I can't wait to see it again. I can't wait to own it and watch it because I think it's, I don't know. Jamie Lee Curtis, her return to a lot of her comedic roles that we used to watch back in the day, with like Fish Called Wanda and stuff. I don't know. I really, really love this film.
I believe you. Wow, that's quite the intro. All right, Brian, what was your first impression of Everything Everywhere All at Once?
My first impression, I mean, it's unique is a really good word. I was sorry I didn't have any drinks when I saw the movie, but it probably would have heightened the experience even more. Because it's like a kitchen sink film. There's everything, literally everywhere, all at once going on in the film. Um, but it plays by its own rules and its own logic, and it makes sense over the course of the film. The performances I thought were really good, and it's a fairly like simple story, just sort of caught up in this really just impressive array of action and sci-fi elements and things like that that you think you've seen before, but then they'll throw you a curveball or something a little raunchy that you weren't expecting or things like that. It's just it's kind of like almost like a Scott Pilgrim, but almost turned up to 11 type of style with the editing and the action and just sort of the zaniness that's going on. But yeah, again, the performances I really enjoyed. I bought the ticket for Michelle Yeoh because I wanted to see Michelle Yeoh in an action film again. I feel like I hadn't seen that in quite a while. Every time she's in something, she's just sort of standing there, sort of stoic, and I'm like, move, do something, fight somebody. So this was like this really got me to the theater. But I have to say, it is her film, but I really think Kwan, I hope I'm pronouncing it correctly, is really kind of to me was like a standout. And also Stephanie Shu, I thought
Yeah.
she did a great job. Sort of what she is able to pull off. We'll talk about that later. But Kwan, for me, every time I think about this movie, I just picture him just making his sort of it's not really a comeback, but he's been sort of in the industry, but just sort of behind the scenes. But you can tell he's having fun on camera, and he's just happy to be there, and it really shows. And I'm excited to see what he does next. I would love to see some further adventures of like Short Round or maybe Data. He could bring resurrect his characters or show up on Stranger Things or whatever. But I think he really stands out in this film to me, and the directors do a really good job. So yeah, overall, I think at least see it once, so you could say you saw it. I might have to check it out when it comes to streaming or whatever. But yeah, it was fine. It's a good movie.
Yeah, I quite enjoyed it. It's these guys, the Daniels, are behind Swiss Army Man, which
Hmm.
is another very bizarre film if you've ever seen it. Also taking actors and pushing them beyond what you're used to, and making having them give really great performances. They do that here. They seem to be very much actor directors. They seem to know how to direct. They can get the action and everything else, but it really is the core of this is the family. It's Michelle Yeoh's her and the Kihi, whatever. Kihi Kwan and Stephanie Shu and James Hong. It's Gong Gong. I love that his name is Gong Gong. But anyway, because it's really, I mean, you strip all the silliness away, the fun, and it's still this heartwarming story at the core of it, and that's really a good sign of some strong screenwriters and filmmakers. And when it does go crazy, it does not shy away from really bizarre, perhaps hot dogs for fingers kind of things that you'll never think you'll ever see. And we also need to say Jamie Lee Curtis gives a great, wonderful performance as well. And each character, each actor gets a chance to actually play it's a multiverse movie. They play a variety of different versions of themselves, and that's a lot of fun. Some of them a little more zany than others, but at the same time, it nothing is there. Even if you think it's for a cheap laugh or something, it actually has a meaning and a purpose in the movie. From the hot dog fingers to whatever happens to the poor guy that jumps on the desk. But the I mean, I would have to agree. We'll talk about them more as we get into it. But Michelle Yeoh and Ki Wan should be recognized. I mean, their performance, their chemistry together, and the different chemistries. And okay, we'll get into it when we get discussion. But there's just all this going on. It is really a delightful film. It is bizarre and wonderful, and you'll never see anything like it. You never have, and you never probably will again. It is truly a unique and original film, and we need a lot more of that in our lives. And I can't champion this film more. I really loved it. So let's get into spoilers and stuff. Of course, what we find out is that, so they decided that to jump from personality to personality, you have to do something very weird and unexpected.
Mm-hmm.
And that gives us some of the funniest and goofiest moments, from slapping snot into somebody's mouth
Well, there's that whole scene where there's a whole group of them. There's a whole scene where a whole group of them are just doing like, there's like a guy humping a lamp and a guy photocopping his eye. I mean, it's like there's so many weird things that they do that, and I will say that there's a fight scene where it involves a trophy.
A butt plug. Let's just put it that way.
And I haven't laughed that hard in a theater in a very long time. I think I laughed for like a minute long. I because it's one of those things that I don't know. You just have to see it in the movie, but it tickled me so much because it was like so shockingly crazy, And then they even, because when they're, it's funny how they even blurt it out in the movie, so it's like it makes you pay attention to it,
It's hilarious.
But yeah, it's just weird to have to, where like there's one part where he has to like do paper cut between his fingers, but it's just those kind of weird ass ideas that are just like it's not anything I've ever seen before. And so I think to me that there's a freshness to those wacky, crazy ideas, and then even stuff that normally it's like, what the hell is going on? There's a whole like multiverses with like where there are rocks and pinatas. And I mean, it's there's like one that pays tribute to Stanley Kubrick, 2001.
Yes.
I mean, it's like, but it's, I don't know. I was kind of blown away by all the different ideas that were thrown into this film that are just so wacky and crazy. I mean, without spoiling anything, but there's a Pixar riff on a Pixar film that's pretty funny. And they actually got someone who actually voiced music for a Pixar film to play a raccoon. They actually got the guy who's known for voicing a Pixar song. So it's just the levels of wackiness, but I mean, everything is not a thrown away reference. Because the Pixar reference in the thing, you think it's just funny that she's just saying the name wrong, but no, you find out that it's connected. Everything is connected, you know? And I think that connectivity when it comes to the story really blew me away, because you have so many multiple angles and stuff, you know, because you've got like the One Car Y or whatever, the In the Mood of Love sort of genre alternate universe. You've got, you know, the kung fu universe with the the muscular finger.
That's
it's like
the pinking.
It's like there's just so many crazy things that I think a lot of filmmakers would not be able to wrangle enough to pull a proper story. It would just feel like almost an anthology type thing. And I think the way they wrangle them together to where it's part of this sort of, to steal a phrase, at everything bagel, it's kind of brilliant. I mean, granted, I guess if you wanted to be nitpicky, there's a lot of exposition, you know, in certain scenes, especially with Key now I'm not pronouncing it.
Quan.
Kwan.
That's what I've been hearing. Yeah, so I just
with his character, but I think it works because you have those things in most sci-fi properties like Terminator and these things where you have some explanation. So it didn't really bother me as much. But I don't know. I just loved how it sort of was a little bit more grounded at the beginning, and then it just goes off the wacky and wackier, and then like crazier, and then just the whole big battle at the end with googly eyes and crazy, you know, and the level of and again, I want to give major props to the Marshall Club, which actually played some of the actors. They were actually the guys that came in with the security guards that come in that one scene. All of those guys are the Marshall Club guys. In fact, the two guys with the butt plug scene are part of the Marshall Club. And nice. I think for these guys to be they just made all these crazy. You can check out their YouTube site, which they actually have some behind the scenes stuff from them training with Michelle Yeoh, but you can see their love for kung fu cinema, but also you can see how they bring sort of a coolness to a lot of the fight scenes. And it just, because evidently that one fight scene with the fanny pack was much longer, and the Daniels kind of knocked it down. And actually Ki Kwan, his whole fight scene, he had to do that one main thing like in one long shot, and he got it on the second take. They were only able to have 3 takes, and he got it on the second take. So I don't know. It's really brilliant. A lot of the different ideas that are thrown in this, and still, regardless of all the sort of ADHD of ideas, it still comes down to a lot of really cool themes, you know. And like Brian said, even though there's all these crazy ideas, it is very simplistic in its story. It's not one of those things that you're not going to figure out where it's going to go with the main storyline by the end, but it's just all those crazy elements that make it different. But it's very heartfelt in sort of its stories about an immigrant story. There's a family story. I mean, about like, you know, a mom and a daughter. There's also things involving what ifs and regrets, you know, like, and it all comes down to, a lot of times it's less about all the what ifs of how your life could turn out. It's more about the people you're around and how you treat them. And so I don't know, there's a lot of great ideas in this, even though it gets really batshit crazy. And it's a great movie to see in the theater because everybody reacts big together, like, what?
Yeah, and you know, kudos to James Hong, who is 92 years old doing this.
He's still got it.
Oh my gosh! And there's, you know, there's a part where he, you know, changes some personality. He just like, man, it's like, it's great. It's great. All the characters, you know, the way they play together is great. One thing I really enjoyed about the script, and Brian, I'd like to get your thoughts about this, is like you kind of reference this, Christopher, is that you get these, for example, things mean something, and it's our characters realize what they mean even before we do, and the realization of that is part of the wonder of this film. For example, the hot dog fingers, right? They're like, okay, she realizes that because of the hot dog fingers, they got really great with their feet, right? They compensated with their feet, and she was able to use that to escape. And it's just that kind of thing that a lot of thought went into this, and it doesn't. Even though it's a multiverse story, it doesn't depend on that so much. It's kind of icing. It's not the cake, right? There's a lot of it, and it's tasty, but the cake is this family, and it really, wow, I just did a Christopher, and it really is great. But I wanted to get your idea on that, Brian, about the script and the screenwriting on this.
Yeah, I mean, I was thinking, it covers a lot of different, as we were saying, it covers a lot of different sort of genres and styles and themes, and I almost feel like, especially listening to Kihi, Kwan, and Michelle Yeoh talking about, all the years of sort of lost opportunities in Hollywood. It's
Mhm.
almost like the film, in its own sort of rapid fire way, is sort of catching up with them in time, and like letting them play in the sandbox and catch up on all the missed opportunities. Especially Kihi, who he goes from uh, Indiana Jones to the Goonies, and then he sort of watches as his peers, sort of go on to make all these other big movies and audition, and there aren't many roles for Asian men, Asian women characters throughout that period. So it's like almost like this film is, in a way, giving them that chance to sort of just do everything. It's like catching up with all the genres that we've been aware of for all these years, and they're finally getting to be represented on screen and do all the things that that we didn't think they could do, and things that they can do, and all the they're bringing all the talents to it. So I feel like that's part of the joy of the story and in the performances, because they're all finally just getting to really play and just do everything. And I have to say, this is like unlike Jamie Lee Curtis we've ever really seen ever.
No,
Uh,
but wonderfully so. Wonderfully so.
yeah, I mean, if you look at like Jamie Lee from like Perfect and True Lies, and this character, it's like you could really tell she's having fun, just not playing like the Jamie Lee of it all, and it was really fun. But yeah, I think the script, it respects its characters. They are very grounded in their way, but it allows that groundedness to sort of carry us through thematically throughout all the different genres and all different styles that they're playing with. But it's still telling this sort of very linear story about bringing this family together and getting them all to sort of really communicate. Um, while all this crazy shit is just going on. So I just think that the fact that they were able to sort of keep it grounded, because I think anyone else who would have tried this style would, like you said, Chris, a lot of the jokes would have been just one-offs, just thrown around. But the fact that everything comes back, everything's tied into things, and uh, it feels like it's all tied together. As you're watching it, you're like, wow, this shouldn't work, but it does. And
Mm.
so it's pretty impressive how they're able to pull it off. Just from a, I can't imagine what that script looked like. I picture, just the
Can
sort
you
of
imagine reading it? How
the
do you, oh
serial
my
the
gosh, how
serial
do you
killer
visualize
wall,
that?
and just trying to put together all the
Yeah.
all the different things. But yeah, I all I can say is just check it out, see it. If it inspires you, if it entertains you, great. If not, see it again maybe, and just
Yep.
because
Yep.
I guarantee there's something there. There's a lot of good stuff there, whether it's the performances, the storyline, the action, stuff like that. So yeah.
Yeah, and I really like the visuals that they often use to represent the different personalities. They use this fractured like screen, that where you see like 5 or 6 Michelle Yeohs all at once, and many of them are the same, but then you'll notice that some of them aren't, and like half of them will look left and half of them will look right, and it's disorienting, but yet it's also informative, and that's really some strong visual flair. I mean, they showed off some of that, I thought, with Swiss Army Man back in the day, with Daniel Radcliffe for sure, right? And
Well,
Paul
well,
Dano.
I mean, Well, I think, and not only the sort of like the visuals and stuff, but also a lot of the production design, a lot of the costuming in certain universes, because there's a whole, I guess, the Alpha universe or whatever. It's all white, and they're wearing all these weird outfits. But there's also the crazy sort of desolate sci-fi universe that Quan is in. That if you pay attention, he's got like little computer circuit boards as part of his outfit and stuff. It's just the level of detail, or even like, especially Stephanie Shu, a lot of her outfits, she's got one that's almost like an Elvis outfit, and there's another one that's almost like Irish or Scottish, fabric or whatever. I mean, just a lot of her outfits are so outlandish and crazy. And it's just, yeah, I mean, and them having to do this for all these different universes. I mean, there's a video online where you can see how they actually created this sort of like animatronic raccoon that they use. Where he can talk and stuff, and just all the crazy things like that. They're just, I don't know. It's like there's things like I never thought I would see in one film. And they do such a great job in sort of bringing those things to life, and even things that are just very simplistic. That there's a whole rock universe that's very simplistic. The camera's very stationary.
That was my favorite. That was,
and it's very simplistic,
Right.
And you just see there's not even any kind of, you don't even hear them talking. You just see,
the word bubbles,
subtitles and stuff, and it's just like, it's kind of brilliant.
While the rock goes,
but you're still you're still sort of entranced by what's happening. You're still into the dialogue that's happening, and there's even the dialogue between like, what's it called, pinatas.
Oh yeah, the pinatas.
It was just.
It's like, I guess we're doing the pinatas now. Yeah.
Although I look forward to getting the Blu-ray, because I've heard them talk about they've actually had other universes that got cut from the movie. And I just want to see what other crazier ideas for universes they had.
I think we should jump in and caution everybody, because yes, it's a multiverse movie, but it's not like what we're going to see with Doctor Strange. Even in the trailers that we've seen thus far, it's not like Spider-Man. It is much more intimate.
Well, it's
in
intimate,
that respect.
But I think it does a better job of showing different alternate universes that are just normal variations of each other.
Right,
I mean, these are almost like different genres. Like there's like definitely a kung fu. There's almost like a kung fu universe genre. There's like I mentioned earlier, like Wong Kar Wai. There's like one that's based on the In the Mood for Love, where you get to see Kwan like all like snazzy, like crazy rich Asians, like snazzy rich guy. And I mean, you see all these different universes where you see different versions of them. But yeah, this is definitely not an MCU film.
Right. So just temper. And it's also, even though we've talked about a lot of action, it is not really an action film either. That's simplifying it, right? That would be oversimplifying.
Well, this
film is far more
a hero's journey type.
Yeah, definitely.
But I will say the action scenes in this are better than fight scenes in MCU
many of them,
because it's much more better choreographed and fun in the way they're composed.
I would have liked a little less slow mo. I don't know if I'm over slow mo, but there's a lot of slow motion stuff that I was like, I just want to see the fight.
I don't know.
There's a lot of that. Like
but I think it's part of their visual thing, and I didn't mind it. In fact, I think one of my favorite scenes involves slow mo involving the butt plug scene, which it's because it takes its time, and you're like, I just laughed and laughed and laughed and laughed because you're like, oh crap, what is happening here?
Oh my god, are they no, oh they did. All right, well,
my god,
before we wrap this up, one last question to Brian. Christopher, you kind of mentioned Oscar bait here. Brian, do you agree? Do you think Michelle Yeoh and Ke-Huy Quan?
I mean, at the very least, I think Hollywood has no excuse but to cast them in more things. I mean, it's pretty much like an audition reel of seeing them in different styles and genres and performances. I really feel like he was for me, it was the standout of the movie. But I think yeah, I think Michelle does really good job dramatically. I think Stephanie Shu is another standout. If I were handing out like MTV awards, I'd say like uh you know
Ensemble cast for sure.
or
Yeah,
Oscars, but
yeah.
because people get slapped at the Oscars. But no, I'm kidding. But yeah, like I think
You don't want to slap Michelle Yeoh because she'll slap you back.
exactly. I think yeah, it's fun. It is Michelle Yeoh's film, and I do appreciate her work and in the film. I just feel like whenever I think of the film, I immediately just picture Kwan just having a blast, and every scene, especially the fight scene,
Well,
and
is he a lead or is he a supporting actor?
Yeah, I'd say isn't he like a he's like a it's weird. It's like I guess he's like co-lead, but I
I'd
guess
say
he's
a
more.
lead 'cause
I would consider him supporting, but you could argue.
I guess I get it's weird because he is like a supporting character, but he just sort of stands out. I mean, it's his yeah. I don't know. It's a weird. I think he'd be good for either one, but any category. But he's definitely a breakthrough. I think he's definitely a breakout in this, and Stephanie Shu as well.
Yeah.
And yeah, the screenplay, the direction, just the editing, the choreography. There's a lot going on, and to enjoy. Like I said, my only gripe is the slow mo. I would have liked a little more, just more kinetic, but it is what it is. It's fine.
All
It's
right.
crazy.
Well, we'll get more of that here in just a second of what you have to say there, Christopher G. Moore. Let's start wrapping things up with our final thoughts, our score, 1 to 5, and our favorite scene. Start us off, sir.
This film is it's packed full of so many different crazy ideas, but those ideas are part of the main story. They're integral to that, and there's really no real throwaway type stuff. It's all connected by the end. It is everything everywhere all at once, but it's also that everything is part of it. It's part of that the bagel of this storyline. And I going into this, I was like, oh, this looks exciting and fun because it has those kind of elements of like certain sort of crazy wacky filmmakers, like what's it, Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind, that filmmaker. It has elements of those type of things, but this definitely has that goofy sensibility that goes along with it. So it makes it feel a part of it. It's not one of those things where it's like, this is like Adam Sandler goofy. It has that goofy stuff and also the lewd humor stuff, which I enjoyed. But it also has a real heart to it. It also has some really great themes that it sort of goes into, that by the end of it, you feel that. You feel, I mean, by the end of it, even though you've been through all this crazy shit of rocks talking and, people using raccoons for weird things. But by the end of it, it comes down to the relationships as well, and it comes down to that. And I really felt that by the end. In fact, I felt gut punched by this film. I mean, this is, as someone who's, in the second half of my life, this film was about, not only was it about sort of like relationships and how a lot of times, it's more than, sure, the main thing about like, a mom and a daughter, but it's also about the what ifs in life, the regrets. I have a lot of regrets. There's a lot of different paths I wish that it would have taken as a filmmaker, as a person, there's so many things that I wish I'd done in my life, but I'm also very thankful of the people in my life that enrich my life and that make me feel, good about myself and that kind of stuff. So why am I crying? But I don't know, something about this movie connected with me. By the end of it, I felt like Michelle Yeoh, and made me want to realize I need to be appreciative of those people around me, appreciative of the talents that I have that I can use, and also just the joy of cinema. Even though this is considered an indie film, it was great to see this in the audience with everybody, whether it be crying or laughing or shocked or cheering, and this has all these different elements. And this film was very impactful on me as a filmmaker, as a creator. It made me sort of like step up my game when it comes to telling stories. And all these people like, oh, I can't connect with this. There's some people talk about you can't connect to Turning Red and stuff. I connected to Turning Red. You don't necessarily have to be and I want to see more stories told from this perspective as well. From people of color. It's great to see different people in the leads. It's great to see people also taking chances, like Jamie Lee Curtis playing a totally different character than what we've seen. So anyway, I can't say enough good things about it. I'm gonna stop before I cry my eyes out. This gets an everything, everywhere 5 out of 5 for me.
Nice.
This is the full bagel. And I've already said it several times. My favorite scene in the whole film is an scene involving butt plugs that when I'm feeling down, I just think of that scene and it makes me giggle and laugh because it's such an outrageous, crazy film that I never thought I would see Michelle Yeoh fighting guys with butt plugs hanging out their asses and blurred penis bits. And I just thought that was the most crazy, and there's a lot of crazy weird stuff that happens in this film, but that scene is one of the most funniest scenes I've seen in a very long time. And I'm so thankful that we have filmmakers like the Daniels that show that you can still take risks, that you can still take really crazy ideas and put it out there in crazy visual ways and have fun with it. And I hope this film it's actually doing better, and I think they said one of A24's films it's done the highest.
It's the third highest at this point.
Third highest, so it's still doing well in the theaters, and I say everybody go see it. Go see it, please go see it. Support indie filmmaker, and this is this is definitely a memorable film, regardless of what you feel about it. It's going to definitely be memorable to you, and you'll walk away with some really cool visuals and crazy things, and maybe you'll cry a little bit like I did.
Oh, very good. So the guys, Brian Lee and Andy Lee, they're credited as Alpha Jumper. They're both Alpha Jumpers, but one's trophy and the other's bigger trophy.
Well, if we see the movie, you'll know.
You'll know what that means. All right, Brian, your final thoughts, your score, your favorite scene.
A couple of things first. My thought was, do you think Jamie Lee Curtis's character was aware of what she was awarded? Like, was that like a joke from the office that they gave that to her and she just didn't know? Because she seems like a stick in the mud, and then maybe they were just playing, because she has a few, right? She has a few of them on her desk.
I mean, I kind of figure it's more of an in-joke type thing in that place.
I like to think that she just had no idea, and her office is taking a
but
piss over this.
Well, and I think when the first initial laugh when you see it in the movie theater, people laugh because they realize, oh, we know what that is. Because I know the guy beside me is like, oh my god. So I maybe it is one of the things where she's cognizant of what you need for your IRS code stuff, but not this
right
plug that's an award. So,
and I was thinking, as you were saying about seeing actors play outside of their wheelhouse, and bring us different characters. It was like that line in Ghostbusters with her and Tom Cruise and Tropic Thunder. We've got to get these two together. I was thinking that it's like we need to see more. I would love to see more recognizable actors play unrecognizable characters. I would love to see more of that.
Yes.
Yeah, my overall, it's I think I recommend it. I say I give it a 4 out of 5. It's probably my highest score. I think I think I gave Scream something high like that. But yeah, I give it 4 out of 5 just for the technical aspects, the ability to sort of juggle many different themes, many different ideas, character arcs, all that sort of stuff, and still provide a pretty entertaining ride. I think it was great to see Michelle Yeoh in an action setting again. I feel like Hollywood had slept on her for a while and hasn't really given her.
She was in Shang-Chi.
Oh yeah, that's right. I just feel like in recent years though, it's like they're only just sort of waking up to it, but it's like I'm glad to see. I'm eager to see what she does next, but I'm really eager to see what Kwan does next, because I think he's just having fun in this film, and he's just glad to be back, and it's great to see him doing his thing. And I think this is the age of like nostalgia. They could give him a short round spinoff or something like that right now,
or just another really great role.
Just another
like
really
this.
great.
They don't have to give him a short round. They can give him another great role.
Yeah. I mean, I just want to see the man paid. I want to see him get paid and get out there and do his thing. So yeah, 4 out of 5. And also Stephanie Hsu, I think, stood out for me. My favorite performance or scene, I guess, was the as we're talking about it, because there's so many different scenes, I guess the dildo fight was just so
Oh my
outrageous.
God, yes.
You just sort of forget because there's just
Yeah.
so much happening. You just forget, and until you realize, oh yeah, there are butt plugs and dildos and all that stuff. But yeah, that was just so ridiculous and so funny, and yeah, that's yeah. If you're not on board by at least one of those scenes, then I guess it's not going to be your
Yeah, it's not your film
favorite.
if you don't get it by then.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I admit I was admittedly shocked at first because I didn't think you don't put like Michelle Yeoh near butt plugs and dildos. You don't think that's gonna happen in a movie, and there it is. And I was like, okay, they're taking us on a ride here. So yeah, that's my long-winded response.
Yeah, well, she's going to be in Avatar 2, 3, 4, and 5. So we have that, and then both
So our
Michelle
children
Yeoh,
will see that, or
yeah,
our
yeah,
grandchildren.
Michelle Yeoh and Kwan are going to be in a TV series called American Born Chinese.
For Disney Plus.
Yeah, so that we'll be seeing more of them. And it's really interesting that I don't know if you guys have been like watching interviews and stuff, but you know, he was he like I think you mentioned it, Christopher. You know, his peers were getting roles, and he instead of getting roles, you know, a couple a year, started being a couple every couple of years, and then he just decided not to act. And for 20 years, he's been behind the scenes. And you saw Crazy Rich Asians, yeah, and it's like, man, he should be up there. And you're right, he should be up there, and he kind of gets to play a character like we were up there. But Michelle Yeoh, of course, is in that too. But they it's like he's just stepped right back in. It's just amazing.
That and he really wanted to do a good job with this project. He actually got some coaches. He got like a physicality coach, and each one of his alternate versions of himself were based on different animals.
Yeah, you were saying that earlier.
Yeah. Physicality. So you have like the main Wayman, who's more frenetic and crazy, and I think the rich one is more of a fox, and it's like each one is based on an animal, and so you can sort of see that. And I think that's why he, like Brian said, he's kind of a standout in this based on how much he show his strengths as an actor and his flexibility as an actor.
Yeah, definitely. So this film won me over. I think not because of the craziness that we're often mentioned, but because at its core, it's about a family, and it's really heartfelt, and it really means a lot. You really care for these characters, all of them. Even the grumpy grandfather, or they grow on you, and they become rich and full, and it's you don't see that often. You don't see that often, period. And this film captures that. And then on top of that, like you said, we get these crazy wacky things. And I think you should see this movie in the theater. It doesn't, it may not sound like a theater movie, based on, it's all the superheroes and stuff are the ones that, horror films. But this one, I think you should. It really is. It really plays well on a large screen. It just, it has this world building element to it. And even that, it's, even though it has this big world building element, a majority of the film is basically in one of two locations: the office or the laundromat. And it's really those two things. And I mean, there's a lot going around it, but a bulk of it is in one of those two locations. Which I'm sure helped with the budget. But in the end, it's, Michelle Yeoh and I forget her name already. I'm sorry. Stephanie Hsu, right? That when they finally, that their relationship in this movie really, you might cry. You might do it. I'm going to give it a 4.75. I want to give it a 5. I'm going to give it a 4.75. And my favorite scene, it is really hard not to go for one of those outrageous scenes like you guys are talking about. But I really enjoyed the elevator scene at the very beginning when Wayman reveals himself as being from another, or shifts to another universe, and like you said, Christopher, his body language changes, and he does a and he pulls out the umbrella so he can hide things, and it was just, he instantly became another character, and it was it was a joy to watch, and he does that, often, and of course Michelle Yeoh gets a chance to do that too, and so does so it's definitely Shum for that matter. But I really enjoyed those scenes, and like when she first puts the shoes on backwards, and I forget what else she has to do, and then poof, off she goes right into the room, into the what was it, the janitor closet, right, where she gets to meet. I don't know. I walked out of the movie, and you might feel surprised by this, Christopher, but I walked out of the movie not really sure what I thought. I mean, I really enjoyed it, but there was something that I think it was an expectation level, because I did expect something a little different than what I got, and that's why I was kind of mentioning that earlier. Is that don't go in this thinking it's just for a wild, crazy, multiverse movie or for an action movie, because it's much more than that. It's much, much more than that, and much more important than that. Again, back to the family characters. But in the end, I definitely think we'll be talking about this movie at the end of the year somehow. And I do hope it gets recognized. It's not a guarantee by any stretch of the imagination. It'll probably be one of those things that people will say got overlooked, but it really should be recognized.
Well, and I hope it's not one of those things that, as much as I'd like Jamie Lee Curtis to get acknowledgement, I hope it's not one of those things where they overlook the two main leads for her.
And give it to Jamie, yeah. But I wouldn't be upset if they gave it to her either. But they all three should be. Well, there should be. Well, not the whole cast, but we'll get there. We got give it to them now.
Let's hope it. Although it's it's always worse when it's towards the beginning of the year, because sometimes they can be overlooked. But hopefully those performances will live, on past this. I don't know.
Well, I think this film will live past this year. I think this film will be one of those films that when the films of the 2020s, right? This will be one of the films that definitely gets pushed in there.
I want to see some cosplays though. I want to see some cosplays, please, because they're such crazy. I don't know about the finger. The hot dog fingers kind of gross me out, because there's a part where they've got like ketchup and mustard, and they're just rubbing each other's mouths. It's like, oh. And there's the part where she uses her feet to play the piano. I don't like feet, so it's like, oh. Although I did find it very funny that actually that the wrist brace that Jamie Lee Curtis, that was her idea. A lot of her things in her outfit, like her necklace and stuff, that was her idea. But it's her to wear a wrist brace, and then like in the hot dog universe, it's a foot brace. The brace is on her foot. So I just
makes sense.
The attention to detail and stuff like that, or even but it's crazy good.
All right. Well, a stretch for us, covering horror films. This is kind of a fringe on top of a fringe. But we felt it worthy of discussion. So we hope you enjoyed this review of Everything, Everywhere, All at Once. I certainly enjoyed talking about it, and I enjoyed Brian, Christopher, the two of you joining me to do so. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for allowing me to cry.
No.
I'm a little too passionate about films, if you could tell.
Oh, well, I like films, right? All right. All right. With that, let's say good night.
Good night.